The metal detector doesn't beep. It should have. But Police Chief Marcus Webb walks through security like he owns the building, badge clipped to his belt, eyes scanning the hallway with the cold assessment of someone used to being obeyed without question. His polished shoes click against the marble floor in a rhythm that sounds almost military, deliberate, confident, entitled. The security guard glances at the badge, then at Webb's face, and waves him through without a second thought. It's the same everywhere Webb goes. The badge is a passport, a shield, a weapon that doesn't need bullets to make people step aside. But today, that's about to change. The bailiff doesn't stop him either. Nobody does. He's law enforcement. And in his mind, in the minds of most people he encounters, that means different rules apply. Different standards, different consequences, or rather, no consequences at all. Judge Judy's courtroom doors swing open with a heavy, ominous creak, and Webb enters with the kind of stride that announces authority before words ever can. Shoulders back, jaw set, eyes forward. The defendant's table might as well be a throne, and he's here to remind everyone exactly who sits on it. But across the aisle sits a woman who doesn't flinch. Sarah Mendez, mid-40s, school teacher. Her hands are folded tightly in her lap, fingers white-knuckled, pressing against each other as if holding herself together by sheer will. But despite the tremor in her fingers, despite the tension radiating from her small frame, her spine is ramrod straight. She's terrified, not of the courtroom, not of the judge, not even of the process. She's terrified of the man 15 feet away who has spent the last 2 years systematically destroying her life. The gallery is packed, standing room only, unusual for a civil case, especially one that doesn't involve celebrities or massive sums of money. But word got out early, a police chief being sued by a civilian, a school teacher no less. People want to see how this plays out. They want to witness whether the system will protect one of its own or actually deliver justice. The air in the room is thick with anticipation and skepticism in equal measure. Judge Judy enters from her chambers, and the room rises as one. The rustling of clothing and shuffling of feet creates a brief symphony of respect and tradition. Judy doesn't acknowledge the standing ovation of protocol. She simply moves to her chair with the practiced efficiency of someone who has done this thousands of times and still takes it seriously every single time. She doesn't look at Webb. Not yet. She settles into her chair, adjusts her glasses with one precise movement, and scans the case file spread before her with the precision of a surgeon examining an X-ray. Her eyes move across the pages, taking in names, dates, allegations, evidence logs, with the kind of focus that misses nothing. Finally, after what feels like an eternity of silence, she speaks. "Ms. Mendez," Judy begins, her tone neutral but carrying an edge sharp enough to cut glass. "You're suing Police Chief Marcus Webb for harassment, property damage, and emotional distress, correct?" Sarah nods quickly, then catches herself and remembers that nods don't show up in court transcripts. "Yes, Your Honor," she says, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. Judy's eyes flick up from the file and land on Webb for the first time. The moment is brief but loaded. She's sizing him up, reading him, cataloging every micro-expression. "Chief Webb," Judy says evenly, "you deny these allegations?" Webb doesn't stand, doesn't shift in his seat, doesn't show even a flicker of concern or respect. He just locks eyes with Judy, staring at her with the kind of confidence that borders on arrogance, and says, "Completely." His voice is granite, solid, unmovable, no nervousness, no deference, no acknowledgement that he's in a courtroom where someone else holds authority. Just absolute certainty that this will go his way because it always does, because it has to, because he's a police chief, and police chiefs don't lose to school teachers. Judy sets the file down slowly, deliberately, each movement controlled. "Then let's hear what happened." Sarah takes a breath, shallow, shaky, the kind that comes when you've been holding fear in your chest for so long it's become part of your anatomy. "It started 2 years ago," she begins, her voice quiet but gaining strength with each word. "Chief Webb lives next door to me. We'd never had problems before. We weren't friends, but we were, Civil, neighborly. I'd wave when I saw him. He'd nod back. Normal. She pauses, swallowing hard. But then I reported a noise complaint about his parties, late at night. Music so loud my windows shook. I have to wake up at 5:30 for work. I teach second grade. I need sleep. So I called the non-emergency line and filed a complaint. Webb scoffs audibly. The sound cuts through the courtroom like a whip crack, dismissive and cruel. Judy's head turns toward him with the precision of a sniper acquiring a target. "Chief Webb," she says, her voice dropping several degrees in temperature, "you'll get your turn. Until then, I suggest you practice something law enforcement officers should be very familiar with." Silence. Webb's jaw tightens, his nostrils flare slightly, but he forces himself to lean back in his chair, arms crossed over his chest, projecting an air of boredom even though his body language screams irritation. Sarah continues, her voice trembling slightly but refusing to break. "After I filed that complaint, everything changed. Overnight, it was like I'd declared war without knowing it." "How so?" Judy prompts. "He started parking his patrol car across my driveway, not just near it, directly blocking it. I couldn't get my car out. I'd have to knock on his door to ask him to move it." "And did he move it?" Judy asks, pen poised over her notepad. "Sometimes," Sarah says bitterly. "After making me wait, I'd knock and he'd take his time answering. Sometimes he wouldn't answer at all. I'd stand there for 20 minutes, knocking, calling, knowing he was inside because his lights were on and I could hear the TV, but he'd just ignore me." The gallery murmurs. A few people shake their heads. Judy makes a note. "Did you file additional complaints?" "Yes, multiple, with the city, with his department. I even called the mayor's office." "And?" Sarah's laugh is hollow. "Nothing happened. I was told that Chief Webb parks on a public street, which is technically legal, and that there was nothing they could do. When I pointed out that he was clearly targeting me, I was told I was being overly sensitive and that I should try to work it out with him directly." Webb interrupts, his voice dripping with condescension. "Because nothing illegal happened. I park on a public street. If she can't handle living next to a law enforcement officer, maybe she should move." Judy's eyes flash dangerously. "Chief Webb, I didn't ask you a question. When I do, you'll know, because I'll be looking at you and words will be coming out of my mouth directed your way. Until then, your job is to sit there and be quiet. Do you understand those instructions, or do I need to write them down for you?" The courtroom goes silent. Even the court reporter stops typing for a beat. Webb's face flushes red, anger and humiliation warring for dominance, but he stays quiet. Barely. His hands grip the edge of the table so tightly his knuckles turn white. Sarah's voice grows steadier now, anger threading through the fear like steel through silk. Then the citations started. For everything, for anything. My trash cans being out 15 minutes past collection time. My car registration sticker being improperly displayed, even though it was legal and in the exact same place it had been for 3 years. My dog barking during the day, even on days when I wasn't home and my dog was at doggy daycare. Judy's eyebrows rise. He cited you for your dog barking when the dog wasn't even there. Yes. How did you prove the dog wasn't there? I brought receipts from the daycare, time-stamped. The citation said the barking occurred at 2:15 p.m. My dog was checked into daycare at 7 a.m. and wasn't picked up until 6 p.m. I showed this to the officer who issued the citation. He said it didn't matter. The citation stood. The gallery erupts in whispers. Someone says loudly, "That's insane." Judy raises a hand and the room falls silent. "How many citations total, Ms. Mendez?" Sarah's voice breaks slightly. 47 in 18 months. The number hangs in the air like an accusation. Judy looks at Webb, her expression carved from ice. 47 citations, for a school teacher, in a residential neighborhood, in 18 months. Webb shrugs, the gesture so casual it's almost mocking. "I enforce the law. If she doesn't like being held accountable, she should follow the rules." Judy tilts her head, studying him like a scientist examining a particularly unpleasant specimen. And how many citations did you issue to other residents on your street during that same 18-month period? Webb blinks. Once. The question clearly wasn't one he prepared for, and the fact that he didn't expect it shows on his face for just a fraction of a second before the mask slides back into place. I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, he says smoothly. How convenient, Judy replies, her tone suggesting it's anything but. Ms. Mendez, did any of these 47 citations result in fines? All of them, Sarah says, her voice thick with suppressed tears. Thousands of dollars. I'm a teacher. I don't make a lot of money. I had to take out a personal loan just to pay them, $15,000, at 18% interest. The gallery gasps collectively. Someone whispers, "Oh my God." Webb leans forward, irritation finally cracking through his composed facade. She had the option to contest every single one of those citations in court. She chose not to. That's on her. Judy raises one finger, just one, and Webb's mouth snaps shut like he's been slapped. Chief Webb, Judy says quietly, and somehow the quiet is more terrifying than if she'd shouted, "You'll speak when I ask you to speak, not before, not after, only when I ask. Do you understand, or is this concept too complex for someone with your decades of law enforcement experience?" The courtroom holds its breath. Webb's face is purple now, veins standing out on his forehead, but he forces himself to nod. "I need verbal confirmation," Judy says. "I understand," Webb grinds out through clenched teeth. Judy turns back to Sarah, and her expression softens fractionally. "You mentioned property damage in your complaint. Explain." Sarah's hands twist in her lap. 3 months ago, I came home from work. It was a Tuesday. I remember because I had parent-teacher conferences that night and I was already running late. When I pulled into my driveway, I saw that my fence was destroyed. Destroyed how? Completely torn down, posts ripped out of the ground, the wood was snapped in half and piled in my yard like someone had taken a sledgehammer to it in a rage. Judy leans forward. "Did you see who did it?" "No, but Chief Webb's security camera faces directly toward my property. It has a clear view of my entire backyard and side yard. I went over and asked him if his camera had caught anything." "And what did he say?" Sarah's voice drops to barely above a whisper. "He said the footage was corrupted, that there was nothing to see." Judy's expression doesn't change, but something dangerous flickers in her eyes. "Corrupted." Sarah nods. "The same week my car was keyed, deep scratches both sides, all the way from the front bumper to the back. It was going to cost $3,000 to repair. I filed a police report. And the officer who responded was one of Chief Webb's subordinates. He took photos, wrote up a report, and told me he'd be in touch. I never heard from him again. When I called to follow up, I was told the case was closed due to lack of evidence." The gallery shifts uncomfortably, the energy in the room turning hostile toward Webb. Judy folds her hands on the bench, her knuckles white with tension. "Chief Webb, do you have the security footage from the date in question?" Webb's eyes harden into chips of flint. "No. Like I told her, it was corrupted." "How convenient," Judy says, her tone slicing through the word like a scalpel through flesh. "And you didn't think it was worth mentioning to your neighbor, whose property was vandalized, that your camera, which is pointed directly at her yard, might have captured evidence?" Webb's voice rises slightly, control slipping. "I'm not her personal investigator. I told her what I knew. If she wanted more, she could have filed a formal request through proper channels." "No," Judy says coldly, each word dropping like a stone into still water. "You're supposed to be a public servant. That's what police chief means. Service. To the public. Not harassment, not intimidation. Service." Webb's hands clench on the table, and for a moment it looks like he might actually stand and walk out, but he forces himself to stay seated, jaw working furiously. Judy gestures to Sarah. "Continue, Ms. Mendez." Sarah swallows hard, gathering courage. 2 weeks ago, I received a letter. It was in my mailbox. No stamp, no return address, just my name on the envelope. "What did it say?" It said that if I didn't drop my complaints and move out of the neighborhood within 30 days, things would get much worse, that accidents happen, that I should think about my safety. The courtroom goes absolutely silent. Even the air seems to still. "Threatening letter?" Judy asks, though the answer is obvious. "Yes." "Do you have it with you?" Sarah reaches into her bag with trembling hands and pulls out a plastic sleeve. Inside is a single sheet of paper, the words printed in cold, blocky, impersonal text that somehow makes the threat even more chilling. Judy gestures to the bailiff, who crosses the room, takes the letter, and brings it to the bench with careful precision, as if handling evidence in a murder trial. Judy reads it silently, her jaw tightening with each line. When she finishes, she holds it up so Webb can see it clearly. "Chief Webb," she says, her voice like ice scraping against concrete, "did you write this letter?" Webb doesn't even glance at it. His eyes stay locked on Judy's face, defiant. "No?" "Do you know who did?" "No." "Did you investigate when Ms. Mendez reported it?" "She didn't report it to me. She reported it to another department." Judy's eyes flash with something dangerous. "Because you are the suspect. Because reporting a threatening letter to the person who likely sent it would be monumentally stupid." The room erupts in murmurs. The bailiff raises a hand for silence. Webb's face darkens like a storm cloud about to burst. "I am not a suspect. I am a decorated police chief with 23 years of service to this community. I don't terrorize school teachers. This entire case is a farce built on paranoia and coincidence." "Then why?" Judy says slowly, deliberately, each word a trap closing around him. "Is there a firearm on your person right now?" The courtroom freezes. Every eye in the room locks onto Webb. Sarah's eyes widen in terror. Her hand flies to her mouth. The bailiff's hand moves instinctively toward his radio, fingers hovering over the emergency button. Webb's expression shifts. Just for a second, just long enough for everyone to see it, from arrogance to something sharper, something darker, something dangerous. "I'm law enforcement," he says evenly, as if explaining basic math to a child. "I'm authorized to carry a concealed weapon at all times. It's policy." Judy's voice drops to absolute zero. "Not in my courtroom, it isn't. Bailiff." The bailiff steps forward, hand now resting on his own sidearm. "Chief Webb, I need you to surrender your weapon, now." Webb doesn't move. He doesn't even blink. "I don't think so." The tension in the room explodes like a bomb going off. The gallery gasps collectively. Someone screams. People in the back rows start edging toward the exits. The bailiff's hand moves to his weapon but doesn't draw, not yet, but the threat is implicit. Judy's voice cuts through the chaos like a blade. "Chief Webb, you will surrender your weapon immediately, or you will be held in contempt of court and forcibly removed. Those are your only two options. Choose now." Webb stands slowly, deliberately, his chair scraping against the floor with a screech that makes everyone flinch. His hand moves to his hip, and for one horrifying, endless moment, the entire courtroom believes he's about to draw his weapon and point it at a judge. Sarah shrieks and ducks behind the plaintiff's table. Someone in the gallery yells, "Gun!" and chaos erupts. People scrambling, pushing, trying to get to the doors. The bailiff's weapon clears leather, pointed directly at Webb's center mass, but Webb doesn't pull the gun. Instead, he pulls out his badge. He yanks it from his belt clip and holds it up high, like a talisman that will protect him from consequences, from accountability, from reality itself. "This badge," he says, his voice shaking with barely controlled rage, "means I don't follow your rules. I enforce them. I am the law in this community. Not you, not this court. Me." Judge Judy stands, and in that moment she seems to grow 10 feet tall. The gavel is in her hand, but she doesn't strike it. She doesn't need to. "Chief Webb," she says, and her voice carries the weight of 30 years on the bench, thousands of cases, and absolute moral authority. "You just threatened an officer of the court. You have refused a lawful order from a bailiff acting in his official capacity. You have created a dangerous situation that endangered everyone in this room, and you are about to learn something very, very important." Webb's eyes blaze with fury and disbelief. His hand is still raised, badge glinting in the fluorescent lights. "What's that?" Judy leans forward, and the next words come out surgical, precise, devastating. "Your badge doesn't make you immune to the law. It makes you accountable to a higher standard, and you just violated that standard in the most spectacular way possible." She nods sharply to the bailiff. "Remove him, now." And that's when Marcus Webb makes the single worst decision of his entire life. His hand drops from the badge to his holster, and he reaches for his gun. The courtroom erupts into pure pandemonium. The bailiff doesn't hesitate. He lunges forward, closing the distance between himself and Webb in 3 explosive strides. Sarah screams, a raw, primal sound of terror. The gallery becomes a stampede, people scrambling over chairs and each other trying to reach the exits. Someone trips and falls. Someone else is sobbing. The court reporter throws herself under her desk, but Webb doesn't actually draw the weapon. His hand freezes halfway to the holster, fingers splayed, trembling, and in that frozen moment, reality crashes into him with the force of a freight train hitting a brick wall. He's in a courtroom, on camera, multiple cameras, surrounded by witnesses, with his hand reaching for a gun in front of a judge. The bailiff doesn't care that Webb stopped, doesn't care that the weapon is still holstered. Training and instinct take over. He tackles Webb with professional precision, driving him backward into the defendant's table. Webb hits it hard, the air exploding from his lungs in a whoosh that the microphones pick up perfectly. The gun is ripped from his holster and secured in under 3 seconds, before Webb's brain can even fully process what just happened. 2 more bailiffs flood into the room through the side door, weapons drawn, moving with practiced coordination. Webb is hauled to his feet, arms wrenched behind his back with enough force to make him grunt in pain. His face is pressed against the defendant's table, cheek flattened against the wood. "Get off me!" he roars, voice raw and desperate and furious all at once. "I'm a police chief. You have no authority to touch me. I'll have your jobs, all of you." "Wrong," Judy says, and her voice cuts through his tirade like a chainsaw through paper. She's still standing, still in complete control, still utterly unshaken. "In this courtroom, I have all the authority, I have all the power, and you just committed assault with a deadly weapon against a judicial officer." Webb's face twists with rage and disbelief, spit flying as he shouts, "I didn't assault anyone. I didn't even draw my weapon." "You reached for a weapon in a courtroom during an active legal proceeding after being ordered to surrender it," Judy says, her words clipped and precise, each one a nail in his coffin. "That is assault. That is a threat. That is a felony. And that, Chief Webb, is the end of your career." The words hit him like a physical blow. His body goes slack, the fight draining out of him as the enormity of what he's done, what he's destroyed in a single moment of rage and entitlement, finally registers in his brain. The bailiffs cuff him. The metal clicks echo in the sudden silence, louder than any gavel, more final than any verdict. Sarah is still behind the plaintiff's table, hands over her mouth, shaking so violently that she looks like she might collapse. Tears stream down her face, not from fear anymore, but from something else. Relief, vindication, the overwhelming sensation of being believed after 2 years of being dismissed and gaslighted. Judy's gaze softens, just for a heartbeat, as she looks at Sarah. "Ms. Mendez, are you all right?" Sarah nods frantically, unable to speak, unable to do anything but cry and nod and try to remember how to breathe. Judy turns back to Webb, who is now restrained, breathing hard, eyes wild with panic and fury, and the slowly dawning realization that his life as he knows it is over. "Chief Marcus Webb," she says formally, and her voice carries the weight of judgment and finality, "you are being charged with contempt of court, threatening a judicial officer, unlawful possession of a firearm in a restricted area, and attempted assault with a deadly weapon. Bailiff, contact the state police immediately, and make absolutely certain it's not anyone from his department." Webb's head snaps up, neck straining against the bailiff's grip. "You can't do this. You don't have jurisdiction over me. You're a criminal who just committed multiple felonies in my courtroom," Judy interrupts coldly. "I can do this. I am doing this, and it's already done." The bailiff begins reading Webb his Miranda rights, the familiar words taking on a surreal quality as they're spoken to someone who has probably recited them thousands of times himself. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." Webb is dragged toward the side door, his polished shoes scraping against the floor, leaving scuff marks on the pristine marble. He's still trying to protest, still trying to argue, still refusing to accept that this is real. But before he disappears through the door, Judy speaks one more time. "Chief Webb." He stops, forced by the bailiffs to turn and look back at her. Their eyes meet across the courtroom, across the chasm of accountability he spent his entire career avoiding. "5 minutes ago," Judy says quietly, "you walked into my courtroom thinking you were untouchable, thinking your badge was armor, thinking the rules didn't apply to you." She pauses, letting the words sink in. "Now you're in handcuffs, facing felony charges. Your career is over, your reputation is destroyed, and all of it, every single consequence you're about to face, happened because you forgot one simple truth." Webb stares at her, speechless for the first time. "The law doesn't care about your badge," Judy says. "It cares about your actions, and your actions just sent you to prison." Webb's face crumples, not with remorse, not with regret, but with pure, impotent fury and humiliation. The mask is gone. The authority is stripped away. What's left is just a man who believed he was above consequences and is now drowning in them. He's hauled out. The door slams shut with a bang that echoes through the chamber. The courtroom remains silent except for Sarah's quiet, gasping sobs. Judy sits down slowly, removes her glasses, and sets them on the bench. She exhales, long and controlled, and for just a moment she looks every year of her age. This is the part of the job that drains her. Not the yelling, not the lies, not even the stupidity. It's the violence, the abuse of power, the victims left shaking and traumatized. But then she looks at Sarah, who is being comforted by her attorney, and something shifts in Judy's expression. This is also why she does it. This is why it matters. Because Sarah Mendez will never have to be afraid of Marcus Webb again. The cameras are still rolling, the footage is being recorded, the world is watching, and justice, for once, is being served in real time. The courtroom doesn't resume for 4 hours. In that time, everything changes. State police arrive within 20 minutes. 3 unmarked vehicles, 6 officers who don't know Marcus Webb and don't care about his badge or his reputation or the 23 years he spent building both. They treat the courtroom like an active crime scene because that's exactly what it is. Yellow tape goes up. Evidence markers are placed. Photographs are taken from every conceivable angle. The defendant's table where Webb was tackled is dusted for prints, though everyone knows they'll only find his. The weapon, a Glock 19, fully loaded, one in the chamber, is bagged and tagged as evidence. Webb is gone, transported to a state facility 40 miles away to eliminate any possibility of his own officers interfering with his detention. The booking photo will leak within hours. Webb in an orange jumpsuit, face purple with rage, eyes promising violence he can no longer deliver. Sarah sits in a witness room wrapped in a blanket someone brought her, cradling a cup of water she hasn't touched. Her hands have finally stopped shaking, but she can't seem to make herself drink. Can't seem to do anything except stare at the wall and try to process the fact that it's over, that she's safe, that he can't hurt her anymore. Her attorney sits beside her, quiet and patient, occasionally offering tissues or gentle reassurances. The attorney, a young woman named Rebecca Torres, has seen domestic violence cases, stalking cases, harassment cases, but she's never seen anything quite like this. Never seen a victim vindicated so completely, so publicly, so absolutely. "Are you sure you want to continue?" Rebecca asks gently. "The criminal charges alone will destroy him. You don't have to keep fighting the civil case if you don't want to." Sarah looks at her, and for the first time in hours, there's clarity in her eyes. "I want to finish this. I want everyone to know exactly what he did. Not just today. Everything. Rebecca nods, squeezes her hand. Then we finish it. And in her private chambers, Judge Judy sits at her desk reviewing footage. Not just from today, though she's watched Webb reach for his weapon 17 times from different camera angles, studying his face, his body language, the moment his arrogance transformed into animal panic. She's watching older footage too, downloaded from the court's archives, cases involving Webb from years past, traffic disputes where Webb appeared as a witness, his testimony always crisp, always confident, always believed without question. A harassment case from 4 years ago where a college student accused one of Webb's officers of stalking her. Webb testified on behalf of his officer. The case was dismissed. A brutality complaint from 6 years ago. Webb investigated it personally, found no wrongdoing, pattern after pattern, authority protecting authority, the system circling the wagons. Judy makes notes, flags timestamps, sends encrypted emails to people she trusts in the state attorney general's office. Because she knows something that everyone else is about to learn. Today wasn't an isolated incident. It was the moment the mask finally slipped. When court reconvenes, the energy in the room has fundamentally shifted. The gallery is packed beyond capacity. News crews, legal observers, curious citizens who heard what happened and came to witness history. Court security has to turn people away. The overflow spills into the hallway. Badge doesn't protect. You is trending nationwide. The video clips have been viewed 40 million times and climbing. Legal analysts are dissecting every frame. Civil rights organizations are issuing statements. The police union is scrambling to distance itself while also trying to defend the profession. And in a cell 40 miles away, Marcus Webb watches it all unfold on a small television mounted to the wall, his hands cuffed, his career burning to ash in real time. Sarah returns to her seat, visibly drained but no longer shaking. She's been given time to collect herself, to eat something, to call her mother and hear the words, "I believe you," that she's been waiting 2 years to hear. There's something different in her eyes now, not just relief. Something stronger, something that looks like power reclaimed. Judge Judy enters. The room stands, the rustling and shuffling somehow more reverent than usual, as if everyone present understands they're witnessing something significant. Judy sits, surveys the courtroom, and speaks. What you witnessed earlier was an assault on the integrity of this court and a threat to the safety of everyone present. Former Police Chief Marcus Webb has been arrested and is being held without bail pending arraignment on multiple felony charges. However, Ms. Mendez's civil case deserves to proceed. She came here seeking justice, and justice delayed is justice denied. Sarah's attorney stands. Your Honor, we're ready to continue. Judy nods. Bailiff, bring in the evidence. A cart is wheeled in, stacked with banker's boxes, file folders, and a laptop connected to the courtroom's projection system. A state investigator, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and the bearing of someone who has spent decades rooting out corruption, accompanies it. The gallery leans forward collectively. Judy gestures to the investigator. State your name and credentials for the record. Detective Lieutenant Maria Santos, State Bureau of Investigation Public Corruption Unit, 26 years of service. Detective Santos, you've been investigating Marcus Webb's conduct. What have you found? Santos opens the first file. Your Honor, we've uncovered a pattern of targeted harassment spanning 18 months. We've also recovered deleted security footage that directly contradicts statements Webb made under oath. The projection screen flickers to life. The image shows Sarah's backyard. The timestamp reads March 14th, 11:43 p.m. For a few seconds, nothing happens, just an empty yard, illuminated by security lights from Webb's property. Then a figure enters the frame from the left side of the screen. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark jacket, work gloves, and a baseball cap pulled low. The figure picks up a sledgehammer that was leaning against Webb's fence, clearly pre-positioned, clearly planned, and proceeds to methodically, brutally, systematically destroy Sarah's fence, post by post, board by board. with the kind of focused violence that speaks to rage controlled just enough to accomplish a goal. The gallery gasps. Someone says, "Oh my God," loud enough for the microphones to pick up. Sarah watches the screen, fresh tears streaming down her face. Not from fear this time, from validation, from the overwhelming relief of being proven right after being told you're crazy for 2 years straight. The figure finishes, surveys the damage with visible satisfaction, and tosses the sledgehammer into the wreckage like a signature. As he turns to walk back toward his house, he passes directly under a security light. The camera catches his face in perfect high-definition clarity. Marcus Webb. Unmistakable, undeniable. The courtroom explodes in voices, shock rippling through the gallery in waves. Judy slams her gavel once. "Order!" The noise dies, but the shock remains, thick and palpable. Detective Santos continues, her voice professional and detached. "We pulled Webb's home security system. This footage was not corrupted as he claimed. It was deliberately deleted from the primary drive. Webb didn't know about the automatic cloud backup his system runs." Judy looks at Sarah and her voice softens fractionally. "Ms. Mendez, I apologize that you had to endure this, that the system failed to protect you when it should have." Sarah shakes her head, voice trembling but clear. "You didn't fail me, Your Honor. You listened. That's all I needed. Someone to finally listen." Judy's expression is grim. "Detective Santos, continue." Santos clicks to the next file. "We've also pulled Webb's citation records. In the 18-month period you mentioned, he issued 47 citations to Ms. Mendez." She brings up a comparison chart on the screen. During that same period, Webb issued exactly 3 citations to other residents on his street, 2 parking violations and 1 noise complaint, all dismissed. The numbers sit there, stark and damning. Judy studies the chart. 47 to 3. That's not law enforcement. That's persecution. "Agreed," Santos says. "We've also interviewed 12 other residents of the neighborhood. 7 of them reported that Webb threatened them with citations if they testified on Ms. Mendez's behalf." The gallery erupts again. Judy doesn't bother silencing them this time. Sarah's attorney stands. "Your Honor, I'd like those witnesses brought forward." "Granted," Judy says. "But first, Detective Santos, you mentioned there was more." Santos nods grimly. "Significantly more. We pulled Webb's disciplinary file. Over the past 12 years, he's had 19 complaints filed against him by civilians, everything from excessive force to harassment to intimidation. How many were investigated? 11. And how many resulted in disciplinary action? 0. Silence falls over the courtroom like a shroud. Judy's voice is dangerously quiet. 19 complaints, 0 consequences. Why? Santos meets her eyes. Because Chief Webb was assigned to investigate most of them himself, and the ones he didn't personally handle were investigated by officers under his direct command. The words land like a bomb. This isn't just about Sarah Mendez anymore. This is about a man who weaponized his authority for over a decade and a system that enabled him every step of the way. Detective Santos continues. "We also discovered that Webb has been operating an unlicensed private security company for the past 8 years. Judy's eyebrows rise. While serving as police chief? Yes, he used his position to identify businesses with security vulnerabilities, then had his officers conduct aggressive inspections and code enforcement until the owners hired his company. Extortion. The State Attorney General's office will be filing charges to that effect, yes." Judy leans back, processing. "How many businesses?" 23 that we've confirmed so far. We're still investigating." The courtroom is riveted. This has transcended a simple civil case. This is a public execution of corruption, broadcast in real time. Sarah sits motionless, watching it all unfold, understanding for the first time that she wasn't just a victim. She was one victim among many. And by standing up, by refusing to be silent, she's given others permission to do the same. Detective Santos closes her file. "Your Honor, We've also established contact with 7 other individuals who are willing to testify about Webb's pattern of behavior. With your permission, I'd like to bring them forward. Judy nods slowly. This court will hear them. And one by one, they come forward. Each story different, each story the same. A pattern of abuse painted in human voices and broken lives. And with each testimony, the truth becomes undeniable. Marcus Webb didn't just point a gun at Judge Judy. He spent years pointing his badge at anyone who dared to challenge him. And that reign of terror just ended. The first witness is a man in his 60s wearing a veteran's cap. His name is Daniel Torres. He walks slowly to the stand, leaning heavily on a cane, his left leg dragging slightly from an injury sustained in combat 30 years ago. The courtroom falls silent as he settles into the witness chair, adjusting his weight with a grimace. Judge Judy's voice softens in a way it rarely does. Mr. Torres, thank you for being here. I know this isn't easy. Please take your time and tell us what happened. Daniel clears his throat, hands gripping the cane handle so tightly his knuckles turn white. 5 years ago, I was pulled over by one of Chief Webb's officers. The officer claimed I was driving erratically, said I was swerving. But I wasn't drunk. I have never driven drunk in my life. Then what happened? Judy asks gently. The officer made me get out of the car. I explained about my leg injury. From my service, I have documents, medical records. But he didn't care. He saw me limping, saw my unsteady gait, and decided I was intoxicated. I was arrested, handcuffed, put in the back of a patrol car like a criminal. His voice breaks slightly. I'm a decorated veteran, Purple Heart, Bronze Star, and I spent that night in a jail cell next to someone arrested for domestic violence. The gallery murmurs sympathetically. Several people shake their heads in disgust. What happened to the charges? Judy asks. Dropped the next morning. The breathalyzer from the scene showed 0 alcohol. The blood test at the station showed 0 alcohol. It should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Why not? Because my record was flagged. I had to explain that arrest on job applications for 3 years before I could get it expunged. And when I filed a formal complaint against the officer who arrested me, he trails off, jaw tightening. What happened when you filed the complaint? Judy prompts. Chief Webb showed up at my house, unannounced, in uniform. He told me that filing frivolous complaints against police officers was a serious matter, that it could have consequences. The room goes still. What kind of consequences? Judy asks quietly. Daniel's voice drops to barely above a whisper. He said he had connections at the VA, that disability claims get reviewed all the time, that sometimes people lose benefits they shouldn't have had in the first place. He said it would be a shame if my records got flagged for review. The courtroom erupts. Someone shouts, "That's illegal!" Another voice calls, "He threatened a veteran!" Judy slams her gavel twice. "Order!" When silence returns, she looks at Daniel with something approaching sorrow. Did you withdraw your complaint? Daniel nods, shame flickering across his weathered face. Yes, I couldn't risk it. I'm on a fixed income. My VA benefits are all I have. If they got delayed or denied, I'd lose my house. So he extorted you? Yes, ma'am. Yes. Judy writes something in her notes, and her pen movements are sharp, angry. Mr. Torres, this court believes you, and I want you to know something. Threatening a veteran's benefits in retaliation for filing a complaint is a federal crime. What Webb did to you wasn't just unethical, it was criminal. Daniel's eyes shine with unshed tears. He nods, unable to speak. The second witness is a woman named Carla Jimenez, early 30s. She fidgets nervously as she takes the stand, eyes darting between Judy and the gallery. Ms. Jimenez, Judy says with unexpected gentleness, why are you here today? Carla swallows hard. 3 years ago, I was pulled over for a broken taillight. I knew it was out. I just didn't have the money to fix it yet. I was working 2 jobs, barely making rent. And what happened? The officer wrote me a ticket, $200, which I also couldn't afford, but I figured I'd pay it somehow. Then, a week later, Chief Webb showed up at my work. Judy's eyes sharpened. Where did you work? A diner. I was waitressing. He came in during the dinner rush, sat at the counter, waited until I came over to take his order. What did he say? Carla's hands twist in her lap. He said he knew about the ticket, said $200 was a lot of money for someone like me, asked if I wanted to make it go away. The implication hangs heavy in the air. In exchange for what? Judy asks. $300, cash, paid directly to him. No court, no record, ticket disappears. The gallery reacts with collective disgust. Someone mutters, bribery. Judy leans forward. Did you pay him? Carla nods miserably. I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't afford to take time off work to fight a ticket. I couldn't afford the fine. I definitely couldn't afford $300, but I scraped it together by borrowing from friends, and the ticket did disappear. Did you report this to anyone? Carla laughs bitterly, tears streaming down her face. To who? He was the police chief. Who was going to believe a waitress over him? Judy's voice is steel wrapped in compassion. I believe you, Ms. Jimenez, and I want you to know that what he did to you was both extortion and corruption of a public official. Those are serious felonies. Carla breaks down completely, sobbing into her hands. Witness after witness takes the stand. A college student who says Webb's officers planted marijuana in his dorm room during a party raid, then offered to forget about it for $500. A mechanic who claims Webb threatened to cite his shop for code violations weekly unless he provided free repairs on patrol vehicles. An elderly couple who say Webb told them their property was a target for crime and strongly suggested they hire his private security company to monitor it, or risk having their home insurance flagged for review. Each story is different in its details but identical in its structure. Webb identified vulnerability, applied pressure, extracted payment or compliance, and used his badge as both weapon and shield. And each witness, after telling their story, says the same thing. I didn't think anyone would believe me. Until now. The final witness is a woman named Rebecca Hale, early 50s. She walks to the stand with quiet determination, the bearing of someone who has been waiting a long time to speak. Ms. Hale, Judy says, you have a unique perspective on this case. Please explain. Rebecca's voice is steady, controlled. I worked as a dispatcher for Chief Webb's department for 12 years. I saw things, heard things, complaints that disappeared, reports that were altered. Officers who questioned Webb's methods were reassigned to night shifts or pushed out entirely. Why didn't you report this? Judy asks. Rebecca's expression hardens. I did. Multiple times. I went to internal affairs. I went to the city council. I was told Chief Webb was a decorated officer with an exemplary record and that I was being insubordinate. What happened to you? I was fired 6 months later. Officially it was budget cuts, but everyone knew the real reason. Judy's jaw tightens. Ms. Hale, do you have evidence of any of this? Rebecca reaches into her bag and pulls out a USB drive. I kept copies of everything. Emails, incident reports, recordings of calls that were never logged, complaint forms that were shredded. Everything. She hands it to the bailiff, who brings it to Judy. The courtroom is silent enough to hear breathing. Judy holds the drive, and for a moment she simply looks at it. Then she looks at Rebecca. You lost your career, your livelihood, your reputation, and you still kept this evidence. Why? Rebecca's voice shakes, but doesn't break. Because I knew that one day someone would listen, that one day people like Sarah Mendez and Daniel Torres and Carla Jimenez wouldn't have to fight alone. The gallery erupts in spontaneous applause. Judy allows it for several seconds before raising a hand. Ms. Hale, she says when silence returns, this evidence will be turned over to the State Attorney General immediately, and I want to say something to you and to everyone who has testified here today. She stands. The room rises with her. Whistleblowers are not traitors. They are not disloyal. They are not troublemakers. They are the conscience of a system that sometimes forgets it has one. They are heroes. And this court honors you. Rebecca wipes her eyes and nods, unable to speak. Judy remains standing as the room settles. She looks out at the gallery, at the cameras, at Sarah sitting in the front row with tears streaming down her face. Marcus Webb believed he was untouchable, Judy says, her voice carrying the weight of absolute moral authority. He believed his badge was a shield that would protect him from consequences. But a badge is not a shield. It is a responsibility. It is a public trust. And when that trust is betrayed, the shield becomes a target. She picks up her gavel. This case began as a civil dispute over harassment. It has become something far larger. It has exposed systemic corruption, abuse of power, and a culture of impunity that allowed one man to terrorize an entire community for over a decade. The room is absolutely silent. Even the air seems to hold its breath. But it has also shown us something else, the power of one person standing up. Sarah Mendez could have stayed silent. She could have moved away. She could have accepted that this was just how things were. Judy looks directly at Sarah, but she didn't. She fought, and because she fought, 7 other people found the courage to speak. And because they spoke, a corrupt official will face justice. Judy raises the gavel. Marcus Webb's career is over. His reputation is destroyed, and his freedom is in serious jeopardy. That is not revenge. That is accountability. That is justice. The gavel falls with a crack that echoes through the chamber. In the matter of Mendez versus Webb, I find for the plaintiff full restitution for all fines totaling $15,000, $10,000 for property damage, $5,000 for vehicle damage, and $50,000 for emotional distress and punitive damages. Sarah gasps, covering her mouth. Additionally, Mr. Webb will cover all legal fees and any therapy costs incurred as a result of his harassment. This judgment is immediate and enforceable. The gallery erupts in cheers. Judy slams the gavel again. I'm not finished. Silence returns. Furthermore, I am recommending that the State Attorney General's office conduct a full audit of every case Chief Webb touched in the last 15 years. Every arrest, every citation, every investigation. Because if he was willing to destroy a fence and extort a veteran, what else was he willing to do? The implications hit like a tsunami. Court is adjourned. The final gavel strike is absolute. 3 months later, Marcus Webb is convicted on 22 counts including extortion, corruption, witness intimidation, destruction of property, assault, and operating an illegal business. He is sentenced to 15 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole. His security company is dissolved, his assets are seized, his pension is revoked, and his name becomes a case study in what happens when authority is corrupted and accountability finally arrives. Sarah Mendez uses her settlement money to pay off her loan, repair her property, and start a nonprofit legal fund for people fighting corruption but can't afford attorneys. The first donation is from Judge Judy herself. $10,000 with a note that says, "For the next Sarah." Daniel Torres gets his complaint officially reviewed. The officer who arrested him is fired. Carla Jimenez's $300 is returned with interest and a formal apology from the city. And Rebecca Hale is offered her old job back with back pay and a formal acknowledgement that she was right all along. The case is studied in law schools, analyzed in ethics courses, referenced in congressional debates about police accountability and judicial reform. But for Sarah, it's simpler than that. It's proof that the system can work. If you're brave enough to make it,